Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something kind of different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're diving into excerpts from a book called The Education of Millionaires. It's by Michael Ellsberg.
Oh,
Have you
okay.
heard of it?
Yeah, I know that one.
It's about those self-made successes who basically just skipped college altogether.
Right.
So get ready because we're about to explore those paths and uncover some unconventional wisdom.
Awesome.
Yeah, this should be fun. So it's really interesting how much emphasis is placed on, a college degree. Like it's the path to success.
Right.
But Ellsberg's book really throws that idea out the window.
Totally.
Mm.
And it's refreshing, right?
Yeah, for sure. He introduces us to people who built, amazing careers without ever even stepping foot on a college campus.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, and right from the start, Ellsberg talks about his experience at Deerfield Academy.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that place.
Yeah, it's this super prestigious school,
Mm.
and everyone there was totally obsessed with getting into the best colleges. It was as if you didn't get in, you were destined to become.
Hmm.
Whoa, a garbage man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
That's a pretty intense pressure.
totally.
It's funny, though, how that fear is kind of ingrained in so many of us.
Yeah.
Like, it's this underlying anxiety about ending up in a dead-end job.
Right.
But then Ellsberg brings in Brian Scudamore's story and totally flips the script.
Wait, who's that?
So this guy built a multi-million-dollar empire by hauling junk.
Hauling junks, really?
Yep, 1-800-JODY-GJ-YOUNG.
Oh, yeah, okay. I've seen those trucks everywhere.
Exactly. It completely throws that whole garbage man fear out the window, doesn't it?
It totally does. That's what I love about this book.
What's that?
It's all about seeing the potential in everything and
Yeah.
understanding that these so-called dead-end jobs,
Yeah.
they can actually be incredible opportunities to learn and
Yeah.
hustle
Oh, yeah.
and build valuable skills that you wouldn't get in a classroom.
Exactly. It's all about having that entrepreneurial mindset.
Right.
And, Ellsberg really dives into this whole concept of the entrepreneurial mindset versus the employee mindset.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's based on work by Brian Franklin and Jennifer Russell.
Okay.
They outlined 6 key distinctions between the two.
Okay.
And it's so fascinating to see how these distinctions actually play out in the stories of all the millionaires he profiles.
Okay, so I'm intrigued by this idea of an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
What are some key differences between that and the traditional employee mindset?
Well, the first distinction is focusing on contribution rather than entitlement.
Okay.
It's about shifting your perspective
Okay.
from what am I owed to what can I offer?
I see.
It's about having that generous spirit,
Okay.
that willingness to give first and really go the extra mile.
So it's about approaching your work and life really with that abundance mindset.
Exactly.
We've talked about that before on the deep dive.
Right.
I'm always curious to see how this plays out in different success stories.
Yeah. And the book is full of great examples, but the one that really stands out for me is Joe Polish.
Joe Polish. Does that name ring a bell?
He transformed his failing carpet cleaning business into a multi-million-dollar empire.
Wait, carpet cleaning. Millions.
I know. Crazy, right?
How did he do that?
Well, he completely changed his approach. Instead of getting bogged down by the negativity of his, failing business,
Yeah.
he took action.
Good for him.
Yeah. He mastered direct response marketing
Wow.
and used those skills to revitalize his whole business.
So it's a perfect example of contributing value to meet a need in the market.
Exactly. He saw what people needed and he delivered it.
Okay, that's impressive. So what's the second distinction of this whole entrepreneurial mindset thing?
This one's all about focusing on outcome over output.
Okay.
So it's not about how many hours you put in or
Yeah.
how many tasks you complete.
Okay.
It's about achieving real results and making sure that your actions are actually leading to tangible success.
I can relate to that. I've definitely had my share of late night study sessions
Oh, yeah.
where I put in a ton of effort,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't see the results I wanted.
Oh, I've been there.
It makes you realize how important it is to be strategic
Yeah,
with your time and energy.
totally.
So it's about being intentional
Yes.
and knowing why you're doing what you're doing,
Exactly.
not just going through the motions.
Mm.
This is really making me think about my own approach to work
That's great.
and my life goals.
I love it. And
Uh,
Ellsberg has a great example of this in the book.
oh, yeah.
Scott Bannister.
Okay.
You know him.
The name sounds familiar.
He left academia to become an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, he realized that building real-world skills was way more valuable than just theoretical knowledge.
I see.
He was so focused on the outcome,
Which was...
building successful businesses,
Okay.
and he went after it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
So it's about taking ownership.
Yes.
And that brings us to the third distinction.
Okay, hit me with it.
Sorting for what's needed versus what's requested.
Ooh, I like that.
So imagine you're in a meeting
Okay.
and everyone is focused on a very specific task,
Mm-hmm.
but you step back
Yeah.
and realize there's a bigger need
Okay.
that no one is addressing.
Interesting. So it's like being a good detective,
Yeah,
looking beyond the surface and seeing what's really going to move things forward.
exactly.
That could be valuable in any career.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So basically become the person that everyone relies on.
Exactly. That's a good goal.
I like that.
Okay, ready for number 4.
Okay, what's distinction number 4 on this list?
Going toward big decisions even without authority.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So it's about taking initiative and
Yeah.
not waiting for permission
Right.
to make things happen.
Exactly.
I can see how that could set you apart in any field.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have an example?
Yeah. Let's talk about Marion Skimberry.
Okay.
She had just graduated and desperately wanted to work in publishing.
Okay.
But her resume was just getting lost in the black hole of applications.
I've been there.
Oh, yeah. It's a rough out there.
So what does she do?
So she created this viral Facebook campaign.
Really?
Yeah,
That's pretty creative.
I know, right?
What did it do?
It directly targeted HarperCollins employees.
Wow. So she basically marketed herself
He did.
to get the job.
Yeah.
That's a bold move.
It was creative,
Mm-hmm.
it was daring,
Yeah.
and it worked. She landed the job.
No way.
But it doesn't stop there.
What else?
She used that same entrepreneurial spirit
Okay.
and built a successful freelance career
Wow.
by building her online brand.
That's a great example of how the lines are blurring
What the lines?
between the traditional job market
Okay.
and the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah, totally.
It shows how important it is to build your brand in this digital world.
It really is.
It's not just about resumes anymore.
Right.
It's about your online presence,
Yep.
your reputations, your network.
You got it.
Ellsberg actually calls Google the new resume.
Huh?
He's not wrong.
He's not. When someone wants to learn about you, what do?
They Google you, of course.
Exactly. This is making me rethink my whole online
It's
presence.
important.
Okay, what's the 5th distinction in the entrepreneurial mindset?
Okay, number 5 is seeing circumstances as temporary, not permanent.
Okay.
So it's about having resilience,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that setbacks are inevitable,
Yeah,
but they don't define you.
right.
They don't have to stop you.
This is so important.
It is.
It's about having that growth mindset,
Yes.
the belief that you can learn,
Yeah,
adapt,
yeah.
and overcome challenges.
Exactly.
It's refusing to be the victim.
You got it. Remember what Joe Polish said.
What was that?
Get rid of the entitlement attitude.
Okay,
Get rid of the victim mentality. Decide you're going to figure it out.
that's great. Okay, what's the final distinction?
Last but not least, working to make yourself obsolete in your current role. Wait, what?
Yeah, I know it sounds weird.
How does that lead to success?
So think of it this way.
Okay.
If you're always working to improve processes,
Okay.
delegate tasks,
Mm-hmm.
and build systems,
Yeah.
you're freeing yourself up
For what?
for bigger and better things.
So it's about being a leader,
Exactly.
empowering others, and
Yeah.
constantly leveling up,
You got it.
not clinging to a position out of fear.
Nope.
I like that.
Good.
Okay, I'm officially on board with this whole entrepreneurial mindset thing.
Awesome.
Time to put these distinctions into practice.
Yes. Now, moving on.
Okay,
Ellsberg challenges conventional thinking in another way.
how's that?
Let's talk about the education bubble.
Okay, I've heard a little about this.
Have you?
What exactly is it?
Well, it's something that Peter Thiel,
Okay.
Yeah. the co-founder of PayPal
Right.
and early Facebook investor,
Mm-hmm.
he's been very vocal about this.
Okay.
Essentially, he argues that the cost of traditional higher education,
Yeah.
it's skyrocketed,
Okay.
while the return on investment,
Right.
especially for entrepreneurs,
Okay.
has diminished.
So he's saying that for some people,
Yeah.
the skills you need to thrive
Mhm.
in today's world
Yeah,
might be better learned outside of a traditional classroom.
exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, he believes that things like adaptability,
Okay.
resilience,
Mm-hmm.
and critical thinking,
Yeah.
those are crucial
For what?
for navigating an uncertain future.
Okay.
And he argues that those skills
Yeah.
they aren't necessarily fostered in a traditional educational setting.
It's that whole idea of preparing for jobs that don't even exist yet. Is that right?
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
And Teal has taken a bold stance
Oh, yeah?
with his Steele Fellowship.
What's that?
He awards young entrepreneurs $100,000
$100,000.
to drop out of college
Wow.
and pursue their ventures.
He's really putting his money where his mouth is.
He is. It's like he's saying, skip the debt, gain real-world experience, and build something amazing.
I love that.
Do you have an example of anyone who did this?
Yeah, Max Marmer.
Okay.
He was one of the Thiel Fellows. He left Stanford
Early.
to launch his own company.
That's incredible.
Yeah. He embodies this idea of prioritizing real-world education
Wow.
over theoretical knowledge.
There's this famous Steve Jobs quote.
Oh, yeah.
You can't connect the dots looking forward.
Right.
You can only connect them looking backward.
Love that one.
Sometimes you have to trust the journey
Yeah.
and know that those experiences will make sense later on.
Totally.
Speaking of connecting the dots,
Yep.
Ellsberg brings it all back to his grandfather,
Oh, tell me about him.
Louis Marx.
Okay.
He was a self-made millionaire toy magnate.
A toy magnate.
Yeah, and he built his empire with no college education.
Wait, no college degree?
Nope.
That's amazing.
I know, right?
Tell me more about this guy.
Okay, so Louis started from really humble beginnings.
Okay.
He was an errand boy,
Mm-hmm.
worked his way up,
Wow.
built a successful toy business.
That's awesome.
And get this, he even became close friends with Dwight Eisenhower,
Our president.
the one and only.
That is incredible. What a story.
It really is. It's like the ultimate story of hard work,
Mhm.
resilience,
Yeah.
an entrepreneurial spirit.
It really is. And I think it shows one of the book's key messages.
Which is?
You have more power and choice to shape your own destiny
Right.
than you might think.
It's about taking ownership
Yes.
of your life and your path.
Exactly.
Not waiting for someone to give you permission to succeed.
Live it.
It's about realizing that you have the power to create your own opportunities.
Precisely.
And Ellsberg ends the book with a challenge.
A challenge. I like it.
Yeah, he echoes this thought-provoking question from Peter Thiel.
Okay.
Tell me something you think is true that very few people agree with.
That's a great question.
It is.
It makes you think critically
Yeah.
and challenge the status quo
Totally.
and step outside the box.
That's what this deep dive is all about.
I agree.
Expanding our definition of success,
Yeah.
questioning our assumptions,
Yes.
and recognizing that there isn't just one right way to achieve your goals.
I love that.
Okay, so we've talked about the entrepreneurial mindset
Yes.
and the education bubble.
Right.
Now, I want to go back to this idea of building your brand in a digital world,
Okay.
especially after hearing Marion Skimberry's story.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to build their own brand online?
Well, first and foremost, remember that your online presence,
Yeah.
it's an extension of your professional identity.
I see.
So you need to be intentional
About what?
about the image you're projecting.
So think carefully about what you post,
Yes.
what you share,
Uh-huh.
what you engage with.
Exactly. It's about building a consistent and authentic personal brand
Okay.
that reflects your values, your skills,
Yeah.
and your aspirations.
Think about the platforms you use
Yes.
and how you present yourself.
Absolutely.
So it's about more than just having a LinkedIn profile.
Much more.
Oh.
Think about your social media. Engage with thought leaders in your industry.
Right.
Share valuable content. Participate in relevant online communities.
Okay.
It's about positioning yourself as a valuable resource,
I see.
building genuine connections.
That makes sense. What about building a website?
Yeah.
Or an online portfolio?
That can be super valuable,
Yeah.
especially if you're in a creative field
Okay.
or looking to showcase your work. But even if you're not, having a well-crafted website,
Okay.
it can help you control the narrative
Mm-hmm.
around your professional brand.
And what about this idea of digital Marxism that Ellsberg mentions?
Okay.
Can you explain that a little?
So it's not about politics or anything like that,
Okay.
but rather a shift in power dynamics in the digital age.
I see.
It refers to the ability of knowledge workers
Mhm.
to leverage their skills and expertise
Okay.
in new and innovative ways.
Because of the internet.
Exactly. We can create our own opportunities, build our own platforms,
Yeah.
and connect with clients and collaborators
Okay.
from all over the world.
And that's where the entrepreneurial mindset comes in handy.
Exactly. Being adaptable,
Mhm.
thinking creatively,
Yeah.
and being open to new technologies
Yeah.
and new ways of working.
I'm feeling inspired to revamp my entire online presence.
You should.
LinkedIn, websites, social media, the whole nine yards.
I think it's worth the time and effort.
Okay.
Now, let's switch gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about another crucial aspect of success
Mm-hmm.
that Ellsberg emphasizes:
Which is?
lifelong learning.
Oh, yeah.
In a world where information is constantly evolving,
Yeah.
being able to learn new things,
Mm-hmm.
adapt to new situations,
Mm-hmm.
and stay ahead of the curve is more important than ever.
So that's where self-education comes in.
Exactly. Taking control of your learning journey,
Mm-hmm.
not waiting for someone to tell you what you need to know.
And Ellsberg actually offers some great tips for this,
Oh, yeah.
for approaching self-education effectively.
Like what?
He stresses the importance of finding mentors,
Okay.
joining communities of practice, and immersing yourself in your field of interest.
I like that.
He also mentions the value of books,
Of course.
which we're both big fans of.
Totally.
There's so much wisdom and knowledge just waiting to be discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And with ebooks and audiobooks so readily available,
Yeah.
there's no excuse not to constantly be expanding your knowledge.
Right. But it's not just about passively consuming information, though.
Okay.
It's about applying what you learn,
Okay.
experimenting,
Mm-hmm.
and constantly looking for ways to refine your skills and knowledge.
Turning knowledge into action.
Exactly.
Now, I want to talk about this concept of disobedient thinking
Ooh, I like that.
that Ellsberg discusses.
Right.
What does it mean to be a disobedient thinker?
To me, it's about questioning assumptions,
Okay.
challenging the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
and not being afraid to go against the grain.
Interesting.
It's having the courage to think for yourself
Yeah.
and forge your own path,
Right.
even if it means breaking the rules
Okay.
or defying conventional wisdom.
So it's about embracing your unique perspective
That's-
and not just blindly following the crowd,
Right.
because that's how it's always been done.
Exactly. And I think that's super important today.
Why is that?
When innovation and creativity are so highly valued,
Mm-hmm.
if we want to solve complex problems,
Yeah.
we need people who think differently,
Okay.
challenge norms,
Mm-hmm.
and come up with fresh, innovative solutions.
It's about shaking things up
Yes.
and creating something truly unique
Mhm.
and impactful.
I think you captured it perfectly.
Awesome.
And, this ties back to the entrepreneurial mindset.
Oh,
It's about taking risks,
mm-hmm.
embracing failure as a learning opportunity,
Okay.
and persistently pursuing your vision,
Right.
even when faced with challenges.
It reminds me of that George Bernard Shaw quote.
Oh, which one?
The reasonable man adapts himself to the world.
Okay.
The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man.
I love that quote.
Me too.
It's such a powerful message for anyone who's feeling stuck,
Mm-hmm.
unfulfilled,
Yeah.
or like they're not living up to their potential.
Totally.
It's about realizing you have the power to create change.
It's so easy to get caught up in the shoulds
Oh, I know.
and the have-tos of life.
Tell me about it.
We need to remember that we have the power to create our own reality.
Absolutely. That's why self-awareness is so important, and
Mhm.
introspection,
Right.
and the willingness to question everything.
Totally.
It's about getting clear on your values,
Okay.
your goals,
Mm-hmm.
and what truly matters to you.
Not just blindly following someone else's path.
Exactly. It's about taking control
Yeah.
and designing a life
Mm-hmm.
that feels authentic and meaningful.
Not just settling for the status quo
No.
because it's safe and comfortable.
Right. It's about being intentional,
Mm-hmm.
being mindful,
Yeah.
and creating a life that aligns with your values.
Don't just chase the next big thing.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's about checking in with yourself
Yeah.
and asking, am I on the right track?
Right.
Is this bringing me closer to the life I want?
Be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Even if the answers are uncomfortable.
Sometimes that honesty leads
Mhm.
to big changes,
I agree.
a career pivot,
Mhm.
or a complete redefinition of what success looks like.
That's where the most meaningful growth can happen.
Exactly. It's about embracing the journey
Mm.
of self-discovery,
Yeah.
continuously learning and evolving,
Right.
and being open to new possibilities
Don't get stuck in a rigid definition of who you are.
or what you're capable of.
Ex-
Beautifully said.
Thanks.
Now let's talk about another theme from the book,
Okay. What's that?
embracing failure.
Okay.
Many of the self-made millionaires and billionaires that
Mhm.
Ellsberg features,
Yeah.
they experienced tons of setbacks and failures on their path to success.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But they didn't let those failures define them.
I
They
see.
saw them as learning opportunities,
Okay.
as stepping stones.
It's the whole fail fast, fail often idea, right?
Exactly.
But so many people are terrified of making a mistake
Oh,
that they don't even try.
it's a common trap.
It is.
But failure is an inevitable part of learning.
That's true.
It's how we grow, adapt, and develop resilience.
And it's how we learn what not to do,
That's a good point.
which can be just as valuable
Yeah.
as knowing what to do.
Exactly.
So it's about reframing failure
As what?
as feedback,
Okay.
as data
Mm-hmm.
that helps us make better decisions.
I love that.
So it's not about avoiding failure.
Right.
It's about learning from it
Mm-hmm.
and using it to move forward.
Yeah. I love that perspective.
Thanks.
And that's where a growth mindset is essential.
Totally.
It's about believing that your abilities and intelligence aren't fixed, that you can learn, grow, and improve
Yeah.
through effort and experience.
So many people get stuck
I know.
in that fixed mindset,
Mm.
believing that intelligence and talent are predetermined.
Yeah, but we're all capable of so much more.
We are, and I think surrounding yourself with supportive people who
Yes.
believe in you
Mm-hmm.
can make all the difference.
Absolutely. Create a positive environment
Mm-hmm.
where you feel safe to take risks,
Right.
experiment,
Yeah.
and learn from mistakes.
Be your own biggest cheerleader.
Yes.
Even when you stumble.
And remember,
Everyone.
everyone makes mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone encounters setbacks.
Of course.
It's part of being human.
It is.
What separates those who achieve great things
Yeah.
from those who remain stuck is that willingness to get back up.
Okay.
Learn from those experiences
Mm-hmm.
and keep moving forward.
So it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about being persistent.
Persistence is key.
Yes.
And, I think it's closely linked to another quality
What's that?
that Ellsberg highlights. Passion.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of these self-made millionaires and billionaires,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't just driven by money or success.
Right.
They were deeply passionate about their work.
I see.
And that passion fueled their persistence
Mm.
and helped them overcome obstacles.
That might have discouraged others.
Exactly.
But that spark, that
Yes.
sense, that fire in the belly,
You got it.
that sense of purpose, that
Yeah.
gets you excited to make a difference.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of meaningful work comes in.
Okay.
It's about finding work that aligns with your values,
Okay.
that lets you express your unique talents, and
Yeah.
makes you feel like you're making a positive contribution.
And meaningful work doesn't always have to mean like launching a business or becoming a famous entrepreneur.
No, totally.
It could be finding fulfillment in a traditional job,
Mm,
volunteering for a cause you believe in,
Yeah.
or pursuing a creative passion on the side.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about finding what lights you up,
Mm-hmm.
what makes you feel alive,
Right.
and making it a priority.
What advice would you give to someone who's like
Yeah.
stuck in a job they hate,
Oh, yeah.
going through the motions,
Mm.
feeling unfulfilled?
I would say start by getting clear on your values
Okay.
and what truly matters.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself,
Mm.
what are your passions?
Okay.
What are your strengths?
Mhm.
What kind of impact do you want to make?
Right.
Once you have a better understanding of what you're looking for,
Yeah.
you can start exploring different options
Okay.
and taking steps toward a more fulfilling life.
It's that process of self-discovery,
It is.
figuring out who you are and what you want, and then having the courage to go after it.
Exactly. And it might not be easy.
Right.
It might require taking risks,
Okay.
stepping outside your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
and facing your fears.
Right, but the rewards of living a life aligned with your values and passions are huge.
They are immeasurable.
It's about creating a life that feels authentic
Yes.
and meaningful,
Mm-hmm.
not just settling for the status quo because it's safe.
Or comfortable.
Exactly.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And, I think that's a perfect message to build upon.
What's that?
The power of choice,
Okay.
the power of self-discovery,
Mm-hmm.
and the power of creating a life that truly lights you up.
I love that.
Good.
This has been an incredible conversation.
It has.
I'm feeling so inspired.
I'm glad.
But before we send our listeners off on their entrepreneurial journeys,
Yeah.
is there anything else from the book that you think is essential for them to know?
One thing that stuck with me was Ellsberg's discussion of iteration velocity.
Iteration velocity.
It's a concept he learned from this internet entrepreneur, Mike Faith.
Okay, I'm listening. What does that mean?
So it's all about the speed at which you, test and refine your ideas,
Okay.
especially in the world of startups and online business.
Mhm.
It's super crucial to move quickly,
Okay.
to experiment constantly
Right.
and not be afraid to change direction.
If something's not working.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like that agile approach you see in software development,
It is.
but you're applying it to any goal.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond business, too.
Oh, yeah.
Think about any creative project, any learning process.
Okay.
Anytime you're working towards a goal,
Mm-hmm.
it's about breaking those big tasks down
Yeah.
into smaller steps
Okay.
and constantly getting feedback.
I love that.
Right.
It's like the done is better than perfect mentality.
Yes. Get your ideas out there, test them, refine them, and don't be afraid to make adjustments along the way.
And that's where self-awareness comes in.
To-
And being honest with yourself
It is.
about recognizing when something isn't working and having the courage to make a change.
Exactly.
So be adaptable, be flexible,
Mm-hmm.
and don't get too attached to the plan.
Because sometimes the most incredible discoveries
Mhm.
happen when we deviate from the expected path.
I'm ready to embrace this whole iteration velocity thing.
Good.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to go back to that question that Ellsberg asked.
Which one?
Tell me something you think is true that very few people agree with.
Well, that's a good one.
What's your answer?
That's a tough one.
Take your time.
Well, after all this talk about entrepreneurship and education
Yeah.
and the power of self-directed learning,
Mm-hmm.
I think what I believe to be true
Okay.
is that our current education system,
Yeah.
while it's well-intentioned,
Right.
it's actually stifling creativity and innovation.
Wow. That's a bold statement.
It is, but I think it's true.
Tell me more about why you believe that.
So I think the focus on standardized testing,
Okay.
rote memorization,
Mhm.
and conformity,
Yeah.
it actually discourages critical thinking,
No.
questioning assumptions,
Mhm.
and exploring your own interests and passions.
So it creates a culture of compliance.
Yes.
Rather than a culture of curiosity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while there are some amazing teachers and schools out there
Of course.
doing incredible things,
For sure.
I think the system itself needs a serious overhaul.
We need to move away from that old model of education,
Yes.
that industrial era model, and embrace something more personalized.
Right.
More self-directed.
I agree.
That really allows students to thrive as individuals.
I could agree more. We need to foster that love of learning, that
Mhm.
thirst for knowledge,
Yeah.
the belief that everyone can make a real difference in the world.
I think that's a beautiful thought.
Thanks.
This has been an awesome deep dive.
It has.
So many great ideas.
I know. So much inspiration.
So what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important takeaway
Yeah.
is that success isn't a one-size-fits-all formula.
Right.
It's about defining success on your own terms, embracing your own talents,
Yeah.
and forging your own path.
It's about taking ownership of your life,
Yes?
your education,
Mhm.
your career,
Yeah.
and not waiting for permission to succeed.
Absolutely.
And it's about cultivating that entrepreneurial mindset
Yeah.
no matter what you do
Right.
or where you are in your career.
Be a contributor.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on outcomes,
Yeah.
sort of for what's needed.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to take risks
Right.
and challenge the status quo.
This conversation has been mind-blowing. Thank you so much for diving deep with us.
It's been my pleasure. Remember,
Yeah.
the journey of self-discovery and success is ongoing.
That's true.
So keep learning, keep growing,
Right.
and keep creating the life you want.
Love that. Well, that's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Go out there and create something amazing.